Hi there, I'm Lisa Arana, and I'm so excited you are joining me for today's Assemble This video. I have an easy way to add foil words to your projects that do not require laminator or ink. All it takes is your die cut machine and these amazing new adhesive sheets from Thermoweb and Unity. I'm feeling the nature theme, so I went with this lovely layered tree-like background for my foiled words. I was really inspired by Echo's choice of colors for her tree line, so I pulled out similar inks from my stash and got to stamping. I'm using the Woodland Layers stamp set from Unity Stamp Company, and I'm starting out with my lightest gray color, Moonlit Fog, and I'm using one of the long tree lines, and I'm inking that up in my Misty. And then I just used the blender brush to kind of soften up the bottom edge of that tree line so I didn't have a sharp edge. Since I am layering up different tree lines, I just want to keep that layer kind of soft at the bottom so there's not this harsh line as I go down the page with the different layers. This set has some short tree lines as well, so I'm doing one from either edge. What's nice is each tree layer has a different kind of shape and rise and valleys, so it creates a lot of dimension in your project. For this layer, I'm moving into the greens and I'm using fresh asparagus, which is a darker tone, and I'm using that from the edges. And again, I use that softening of the bottom with my blender brush. Next, I'm going in with my lighter green and I'm pulling out another long strip of tree lines, and I went a little bit lower and stamped that, and then since there was a bit of white left between the other two layers of trees, I'm filling that in. I'm just going to use the same green color and focus more on the center of that strip of trees just to kind of fill in that area. Just going to do that one more time and deepen up that area. And then to fill in anything that's left over, I'm just going to pull out a blender brush and fill in that area as well. So one last stamp here, and then I grab my blender brush and just kind of filled in that area to the side. What's interesting about the inks from Gina K, which I'm using today, is that they do start to soften and soak into the paper. So those harsh lines that you see do soften up and kind of blend. Next, I'm going in with a darker tree line, and I'm using my darker gray color, which is slate, and I'm just inking that up. And I'll soften up the bottom of that, and I stamp it a few times just to make sure I get a nice coverage of the ink. Each of these layers were probably stamped at least twice, maybe more. I didn't include them all in the video just because you don't need to see me stamping over and over again, but I do like to have a nice solid coverage of ink, and sometimes that's hard to do with a solid stamp, so the Misty makes that really easy to do, to keep re-stamping that image to get a nice coverage. And then for the last layer at the bottom, I'm just using some black onyx, stamped that a couple times, and then just filled in any areas and deepened that bottom edge of the paper with a blender. Next, I grabbed some copy paper. I really like the idea of this being almost like a sunrise, so I'm going to add a soft sun into the background. So I have some copy paper, and I just punched a 1-inch hole for my sun, and I'm using some lemon drop ink. Just going to grab my blender brush and just blend in that circle. I like the crispness that the mask creates, so I get a nice solid round sun from the lemon drop. And then just to kind of soften that and to create the rays look from the sun, I'm just going to run a light layer of ink around the edge, just a nice soft blend, just so it looks like the sun's kind of radiating as it comes up over those trees. Now I grabbed the Cloud and Waves stencil from Unity to create some clouds. I'm blending on the color Ocean Mist, just a nice light coverage What's fun about this stencil is there's a bunch of different cloud edges and you can flip them and turn them so you get a different look each time. So that's what I'm doing. I'm not even worrying about masking off the trees or the sun, just kind of being careful not to get too much blue over the top. You could mask those off if you wanted to take the time. But I just love the way that this is creating a fun image with the tree lines and the pretty sky in the background and that beautiful sun just kind of coming up over the horizon. I grabbed the scallops and rectangles dies so I could help plan out my card. These are the amazing adhesive transfer sheets from Thermoweb and Unity. I love all the different words and sayings that are included. I decided to go with hello, and I just placed that down on my background and just sized out where I wanted the rectangle from that background. Next, I trimmed out the word hello from the transfer sheet. That's the only one I needed, so we just cut that away from the page. I'm dusting off the front of my cardstock just to make sure I get a nice adhesion, that there's no dust or anything that's going to stop the stickiness from the back of this transfer from transferring onto my cardstock. And I'm going to do the same thing with the little beautiful word. You just need to peel off the backing and then just lightly press it onto the paper. You don't want to rub these. You don't want to try to rub and separate the backing from the transfer sheet as well, because you might mess up that glue that's on the back. So just be gentle with these and just separate them gently so you don't accidentally rub away some of that glue. Next, I place those into a transfer sheet. That is at the recommendation of Thermoweb, and I think it's a great idea. It protects your cardstock from your die cut machine, so you don't get any weirdness or things impressed into that image. I ran this through my Big Shot and there wasn't enough pressure. As you can see, it just rolled through super easy and it just needed something more to create that pressure. Your machine might be different, so you may or may not need this, but I added 210-pound cardstock shims to my sandwich just to create that pressure. You may need to just play around with what your machine may need, so that's just an option. You might have to add a shim to your sandwich. So I'm just going to pull this back out and place my shims right on top of that transfer sheet with my cardstocks, and then I'm going to roll that through my die cutting machine. This time I got great pressure. As you can see, I had to grab it and hold it and keep it in place as it rolled through, so I knew that the transfer was going to go much better. Next, we just need to peel away that top layer, and here's a look at the glue left behind, and it transferred beautifully. So that is what your deco foil is going to adhere to. Next, I pulled out some transfer sheets by Unity. This is the silver glitter and gold glitter. Wasn't really sure which one I wanted to use for my project, but in the end I went with the silver glitter. Just thought the blue tones went better with the grays. So I'm just going to cut off a couple pieces to go over my adhesive transfers and then just lay that over the top. I kind of had to angle my cardstock so I could see where that glue was. Again, just lightly tap it in place so you don't end up rubbing away that glue. The pressure from the die cut machine is what's really going to cause it to stick. There I was just checking to make sure I got the top of that glue covered. Back into the transfer sheet it goes, and then back into my die cut machine with the 2 shims in my sandwich. And then I pulled this away and I was amazed. I just love the shine and the way that this transferred. It was perfect. It was almost even better than what I get with my laminator. It's so crisp and clean and shiny. It was so pretty. So next, let's just finish off building up this card. I covered my card base in this soft green cardstock and then layered over the top a black scallop stitch rectangle. Next, I'm going to add some foam adhesive to the panels here. Super easy. This is my favorite foam adhesive. It's from scrapbook.com. It's perfect size, perfect width, perfect thickness. It's just my favorite. Just going to stick that right down into the center of my layers and then pop up the beautiful sentiment as well. I was living on the edge and I just trimmed that down with my scissors, eyeballing it. I didn't even bring out my trimmer. Perfect. Now just to kind of finish everything off, I pulled out a mix of sequins and they had these cute little black hearts that I glued down with some glossy accents. And here is the finished card with this beautiful tree line background and sunny sky. I love how the silver words were so easy to foil using my die cut machine, and they just pop off the page beautifully. The die cut layers and the little heart sequins were just the perfect little touch to finish this card off perfectly. As always, I'll have all the supplies linked in the description of this video on my Dollhouse Designs channel and blog. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Plus, if you have any questions or sweet comment, post below. Thank you again so much for joining me today. I hope you were inspired, and I'll see you next time.